Good evening and welcome to Chris 180's Candid Conversation series. I'm Chandra Luckett, Chief Marketing Officer and your host for tonight. As National Youth Homelessness Month comes to an end, we want to bring up a conversation that is so important this holiday season. As the temperatures drop and more people go to spend time with their loved ones this holiday season, there are thousands of young people in metro Atlanta who have no place to go, no family to share a meal with, and no place to stay warm. But as you can imagine, this number around the country continues to grow. In fact, there are 2.5 million young people in America tonight who are experiencing homelessness. Tonight, our experts will shine a light on ways you can help and dispute some of those myths and misconceptions about people experiencing homelessness, especially those who are under the age of 21. Tonight, our panelists will share more into their insight, and we would love to hear from you. So let us know your comments or thoughts in the comment section below, and we'll be sure to answer those. Please take it away.
Well, greetings. My name is Adrian Daniel. I am an employment coach at the Chris 180 Drop-In Center known as The Spot. Our drop-in center serves young people experiencing homelessness ages 16 to 26. And Monday through Fridays, they can stop by and become a member and also partake in some immediate needs such as food, a hot shower, someplace to nap. You can even wash your clothes there as well. You can also benefit from the services of the life coaches that are available. And at base, we are also a mental health program. So we insist on people taking advantage of our therapist that is on site as well.
I'm Kayla Moultrie. I am the operations manager for our permanent supportive housing known as Transitions. We house age 18 to 24, and those are for the youth who have experienced chronic homelessness, as well as those who are in the extended care of DFACs.
So I think as we were brought here today, Kayla, to discuss some numerous things when it comes to homelessness, youth experiencing homelessness in this time of year. And one of the things that people always want to know is, well, how did you end up homeless? Like, how did that even happen? And both of us, from what we've experienced and what we've seen, there are several different reasons why young people especially end up homeless or experiencing homeless. I have to check myself on that sometimes because homeless, you are not what you're going through right now. You are just experiencing
not your identity.
Exactly. So from your experience, what would you say is one of the main reasons or the jump offs for somebody experiencing homelessness, young people?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Sometimes it could be as soon as you turn 18 and your parents are like, you're an adult now, you have to take care of yourself. Sometimes, which is the biggest thing, are a lot of those same 18-year-olds who are in DFACs because they like to just say, I want to sign out, I don't want to be here anymore. Not realizing that it's actually tough to get housing once they have aged out. Sometimes there are experiences of their sexuality within the household, and if their parents or whomever they're living with does not agree with it, they put them out. And then sometimes, I'm not gonna say sometimes, there are cases where they are either in college and there are a lot of breaks, and sometimes during the breaks, the dorms close. A lot of times, I want to say it's when you are a freshman or a sophomore, you are not eligible to stay in the apartments where you can stay year round. You actually have to stay in the dorms. Like some colleges actually have freshman dorms, but they close at a specific time, so they have nowhere else to go. And so there are several reasons or ways that they can experience homelessness at a very young age.
Absolutely. I also would add to that from the same young people that we work with that maybe come out of DFACs or even those that are living with their families. A lot of young people are experiencing issues with their mental health. And if you have been institutionalized, like if you've been arrested and they arrest you, but they don't deal with the mental health aspect, if you're set out, if you're released, sometimes, depending on where you're released, it could be outside of the metro area. You may not have a way or means to get back home. And therefore you're out on the streets and you are street homeless. And so, that's how a lot of young people end up homeless or experiencing homelessness. And we're talking about the impact that has when you don't think about it, when you don't have someplace to sleep. Think about if you don't have enough rest and you go to work the next day. I'll tell you, I'm cranky. I'm super cranky. I can't focus. I can't focus. Imagine going through that every single day, not having someplace to sleep and not having someplace to restore. Sleep is restorative to your body, and not having someplace to recharge, not having someplace to take a bath, I'm not going to get graphic, but not having someplace, not knowing where you are going to be able to use the bathroom, those kinds of things will chip away at your personhood, your humanity. And then that in turn, if you already have some type of foundational, something going on with your mental health already that you inherited physically, then those types of things just add to that and can actually trigger you going through some type of mental health episode. And so those are the types of things that we see young people dealing with that come to the center. And then being street homeless can also put you at risk to become a very vulnerable person. A lot of our young people that put out on the streets or end up out on the streets have to do things like survival sex. It's just plain and simple. It's survival sex, doing things to get by, doing things just to get a meal. Sometimes they will meet up with strangers, and next thing you know, they're trafficking themselves, or they end up getting trafficked against their will. So that leads, and that's not just young ladies, that's young men as well. I think as far as those are the types of things, the main things that end up kind of leading our young people into becoming victims because of that vulnerability of being homeless.
Absolutely, especially when you don't have anywhere to go, because outside of being put out of a household, aging out of care, the impact is you try to figure out where are you going to be able to sleep, eat, use the bathroom. And sometimes, especially in this age range, a lot of shelters are not available. They fill up quickly. So sometimes they may even try to get a bed at the hospital. So they will go in saying, I'm experiencing mental health, I need help. But sometimes those hospitals only keep you for about 72 hours, and then they will send you on their way. You don't even have to have a destination. So there are a lot of people who actually end up in the streets just coming straight from the hospital. And so, like you said, sometimes they just want to get something to eat. And unfortunately, there aren't very kind people who are willing to just give you the money and just say, hey, I understand you need something to eat, here you go. A lot of times what are you going to do for me? That's the immediate thing they'll say, well, what can you give me? So.
And another thing, you just made me think of something. So if people aren't willing to give you money or to give you things, a lot of young people will resort to taking it. And so then, of course, and sometimes they'll do that on purpose because they know that if they get locked up, it may be for the weekend, at least I can get a hot and three, what do we call it again? 3 hots and a cot. That's what it is. You get somewhere to sleep, you get 3 meals, you're taken care of. You're in the system, but you're taken care of. So a lot of young people might resort to that. This time of year, everybody's spending money because it's the holidays. So then they'll take advantage of that, unfortunately, because they feel like they don't have any other means to support themselves or to get by during the holidays.
I want to say another form of victimization is they are also vulnerable to substance use. And so imagine having to it's a lot to not only cope with you being a teenager, coping when you have nowhere to live, coping with you don't even know your next meal. So they result in substance use. And I'm a person who doesn't like to use the word substance abuse. It's more so substance use because you just never know. It's a coping skill. It's not like I just woke up one day and I just want to just start, using the heavy narcotics. And a lot of them, they try to get rid of those thoughts. That's where mental health and the victimization tie into one, because some of them are using it to get rid of thoughts. Some of them are using it to numb the pain. And then some of them is a form of payment. Again, what are you going to do for me? So outside of living in someone's household, they can also supplement giving them different substances. And they don't give them the simple kind. And I'm sure some people will be like, well, what do you mean by the simple kind? Some of them give them the heaviest of the heaviest narcotics. Some of them are also vulnerable to having laced substances given to them. And then they can either get hooked on it, or it can also lead to worse, which is ended up in the hospital for what's the word I'm looking for? It's called substance-induced psychosis. So some of them actually don't have mental health when they first get into homelessness, but once they use substance, that actually induces mental health coming upon them, and it's something they can't get rid of. That I've seen a lot, especially in young adults. It's either they can't get rid of it, or it can last for years to come off of it.
So now it sounds like there's nothing. It sounds like a hopeless situation. And like, well, people out there might be asking, well, what can I do? What can they do in these situations? Well, as we mentioned earlier, both of us, we work for Chris 180, and we work in different capacities. I work at a drop-in center. At a drop-in center. Before I even get into that, a lot of young people, what they do and what they have to do is they either do, or they need to start exploring what I call chosen family. Especially if you've been put out of your home from your biological family, this is the time to explore what it means to have a chosen family, and leaning into support systems, exploring support systems. When they come to the drop-in center, one of the first things, if I'm engaging with a young person, just trying to build rapport with them and engage them, one of the first things I'm going to ask them is, so, are you from here? Oh, okay, you are. Oh, you grew up in the Metro Atlanta area? Okay, all right. Where's mom and dad, or you got auntie, or you got an auntie that lives around here? Just to try and gauge them, to find out what is your support system like. Who can you call upon? I know a lot of times that our partners over at Defects and all the other people that work in the field with young people try to help them establish what those support systems look like before you sign yourself out of care, or before you even get into a place where you have to depend on yourself, or you're fending for yourself out on the streets. So you start thinking about those support systems, like who can I turn to? Because right now, if I needed to, I know we could at least come up with at least 2 people we could turn to if we needed to couch surf, And couch surfing is something that a lot of young people do in times of need. If you want to tell them what couch surfing is.
Couch surfing is literally just you going from home to home, couch to couch. And it's unfortunate because some of them don't have to really couch surf unless someone just says, okay, you have worn out your time here. Because you're not 15, 16-year-olds still in high school, you're an adult. And some people expect you to start, having adult responsibilities, whether it's paying bills, getting employment, or finding your own place to stay. And I always tell people, let's be realistic here. $7.25 or $15 an hour cannot pay for someone to get housed. Assisted housing around Atlanta is very hard. There are some people who can be on a waiting list for years before they can get placed anywhere. So to ask a 18-year-old who was given everything up until 18, whether they were in care or from family, and then just look at them and say, okay, well, here, figure it out. Imagine how difficult that is for them. And to piggyback off of what you said, Adrian, which I love, which was the chosen family. Sometimes people can have chosen family, not just like from an aunt, an uncle, extended family member. A lot of those kids grew up and they were in school who played sports. Do you have a coach who's willing to help you? Do you have a teacher who is willing to give, who understands? Do you have a school counselor who's able to understand? I've gotten calls because I work in the permanent supportive housing department where some schools have called. Some counselors are like, hey, I have this student here. They really need somewhere to stay. Can you help? Some hospitals call. I've actually spoken with some people from the Children's Hospital in Atlanta, and they've asked, hey, what resources are here for the young adults? Because again, there are a lot of shelters in the city of Atlanta, but they don't cater to our young adults. A lot of them get taken advantage of as soon as they get to a lot of these adult shelters. And so the one for the young ones are actually very minimal. There's not a lot. So while we think there's a lot of support for our young adults specifically, there really isn't.
And they come up at a certain age too.
They do. So a lot of them stop at 24. It's very interesting because I could tell you guys at 24, I still didn't have it all together. I still needed help, even down to just food. So just imagine telling a 24-year-old, okay, your time is limited here as well. Now you have to go and figure it out. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And just to, before we wrap up, just to reiterate, I work at a drop-in center. It's called The Spot. We work with young people 16 to 26. Sometimes it's just like if you just need to come by, you need to shower, you need to grab something to eat, you need a change of clothing. We are there to help you. That's one of the resources that is available for young people. And let's see, also, and warming centers. It's important this time of year. Go ahead, if you have access to the internet or 311, sometimes you can call them. They will let you know where the warming centers, sometimes those are churches and firehouses. They will open up their doors at night when the temperature gets a certain point, and that's someplace that a lot of young people can go sleep overnight to stay warm in this weather.
So, final question to pose to you two as we close tonight. What would you say to people who may want to tell folks who are experiencing homelessness, well, just get a job. You can work. You can find a place to live. What would you leave with them tonight?
I would actually ask them to kind of put themselves in their shoes, and also ask them, where were you at that age? At 18 years old, what were you doing at that time? Were you able to get a job? Were you able to have a place to stay? Especially from 18 to 24. Some people may say, well, I was in college at that time. Okay, well, college was able to house you. A lot of our young adults are unable to even finish their GED because they have to figure out where they're going to live before they can think about school. So I just like to tell people sometimes, just put yourselves in their shoes and then kind of remember where you were at that age.
A model that I live by right now is give people grace and space. My motto is grace and space. Sometimes you just have to meet people where they are, and sometimes all of us are going to need somebody to give us some grace at some point in our lives, and it may just be you in that moment. So that's my advice to people at this time.
We have learned so much tonight about homelessness and what we can each do in our own communities. I hope that you will take what you have learned and reach out. Find someone who may need additional support. Find an organization like Chris 180 or one of our partners in the community. And another great way you can help is by going to our website, chris180.org, between now and November 29th, which is Giving Tuesday. With your donation from $5 to $100 to $500, we can help more youth and young adults who need a place to stay, who need support, who need counseling, and who need a caring place to call their own. Please consider giving this holiday season. We appreciate you and all that you do for our community. We'll see you next month.